Welcome, everyone. Thank you once again, Anne, for that wonderful presentation. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about my experience through academia, as well as my exciting new role as the Assistant Professor of Crop Management at CSU Monterey Bay. And I'm also going to give you just a quick introduction to our new Agriculture BS program at CSUMB and maybe give some of you students who were wondering about getting an agriculture degree right here in your own backyard and the different opportunities that come with that. All right. So with that, as Anne stated in her introduction, I am a Salinas Valley native. So I was actually born in Salinas and I was raised in Soledad, California. So I grew up there. I went to middle school, elementary school, as well as high school there. For those of you who haven't had a chance to maybe visit the area, you might think, what the heck does Soledad have to offer? It's a really wonderful place. And if you didn't know, Soledad actually is the gateway to Pinnacles National Park, which is the last national park that was instated as a national park from President Barack Obama just a few years ago. It has really beautiful hiking trails, really scenic views. So if you like to go outside, I highly recommend you visit that. We also have the Soledad Mission. That's one of the many missions around the state of California. So believe it or not, I actually grew up about a mile away from the Soledad Mission. So growing up, I actually went to catechism here in the Soledad Mission. And then oddly enough, I would actually go around the growers' lettuce fields in order to try and go to catechism. And then after catechism ended, I walked back to my house and that was that. So Soledad is still very much home for me. I really like that area and I'm so happy that I was able to find an opportunity here so close to home. Now with that, like many of you on this call or many of your family members, I am a first generation Mexican American. So my parents immigrated here from Mexico and the way that they were able to immigrate here, like so many others, is that my grandfather was actually one of the people who was in the Braceros program. So for those of you who don't know, the Braceros program was a program that went from about the 1940s to about the mid 60s that let a certain amount of people from Mexico come into the United States and work in different sectors. And one of the biggest sectors was in agriculture. So they basically, if they took you into this program, they put you at a certain area, right? And then that's where you worked. And my grandpa, who you see here on the picture on the left-hand side, was placed in Soledad, California. So then later on, a few years later, he brought my father as well as my mother, who started working for the same grower that my grandpa worked for. And they worked for him for many, many years. So my father actually started off as a crew member in one of the weeding crews for this grower. And then he moved up in ranks to a supervisor. And then he moved up to actually kind of the right-hand manager for the local grower. So I grew up riding around in his pickup as he managed the different fields for this local grower. So agriculture is definitely something that is strong in my family, but and in my background. And so when it came time for me to choose a career, I knew I love to be outside. I love to work with my hands. So I knew somewhere in the realm of plant or agricultural sciences is what I wanted to pursue. So then I applied to a few colleges. I did pretty good in high school, and I decided to actually go to Fresno State. Now, believe it or not, I actually applied to CSUMB. I got into CSUMB, but then I learned that they did not have an agriculture program. So that's why I decided to go with the next university that was marginally close to Soledad, which was Fresno State. So over there, I started pursuing a bachelor's degree in plant science. And I thought, okay, after I get my bachelor's degree, that's going to be it for me. I'm going to graduate, get a good job, make lots of money, and that's going to be that, right? That's the idea that I feel like a lot of us, especially those of us maybe that are first generation students, have in mind. But I was fortunate enough to actually be hired by one of the professors there at Fresno State. And he was looking for someone to help his graduate students within his lab to help them with their research. And at that time, I had no idea what agricultural research was. But then this opportunity really exposed me to that. And I was able to help his graduate students with the NEAT studies, as well as the questions that they were trying to answer in the pursuit of trying to enhance these production systems. So then when I came closer and closer to graduation, he said, okay, since we're over here in Fresno and you're from Soledad, how about you go intern with one of my colleagues over in the Salinas Valley? And that's this gentleman right here in the center picture. His name is Mr. Richard Smith. He's a farm advisor with the University of California Cooperative Extension. And then there I was able to get experience in research in crops grown here in the Salinas Valley. So I had experience in the Central Valley, and then I had experience here in the Salinas Valley too. And it was after this experience that I thought, okay, this is something that I really, really like and that I really, really want to do. So they recommended if you want to do research, then you're going to have to go to graduate school. And at the time, to be quite honest with you, I had no idea what graduate school was. I mean, other than working with the graduate students in that professor's lab, I didn't know what it was because I had never had that discussion at home or with any other family members or even in some of the classes that I took, right? So graduate school is something that you can pursue after you get a bachelor's degree. So a bachelor's degree typically takes around 4 or 5 years, right? And then you graduate and you get your degree. Well, you can actually keep pursuing school, right? So you can pursue, like I did, a master's degree in plant science at Fresno State. And that right there helped me get that extra little kind of experience in doing agricultural research. So when I pursued this master's degree, I was able to do a thesis research study, my own research study that I specialized in. So what I did was I evaluated these implements that were fairly new to the Salinas Valley at that point. They were automated lettuce thinners. So typically the lettuce thinning process is something that's done by hand. The past few years, the agriculture industry in this region and throughout the Western United States has really been suffering from a shortage of labor. So now we're developing these new implements to try and kind of help the growers in these areas where they typically require a lot of manual labor, as in the case of weeding as well as thinning lettuce. So I was able to contribute to my home, the growers around the area, by performing this study, okay? And I was very happy, and I fortunately finished, and I thought, okay, that's it, I'm done, I'm not going to school anymore, right? But then my mentors once again told me, you should really think about pursuing your PhD. And once again, that conversation, I just never had that conversation, or no one had ever talked to me about getting a PhD. But then I thought, if they think I'm good enough, then I'm gonna try, right? So I tried, I applied to a few programs, and fortunately I was actually accepted to a program, not in California, but in Wyoming. So it was a big kind of leap of faith, right? Leaving home, moving to a new state, living somewhere that was totally different than where I grew up from. But at the end of the day, this ended up being the best decision that I made probably in my life up until this point, because I was able to get such great experience. I was able to experience something so different than what I was used to, right? And at the end of it, I did this really great research project. And then at the end of at the end of a PhD program, typically what you have to do is you have to defend your dissertation. So you basically have to go in front of a bunch of different professors, right? And they just ask you a whole bunch of questions for hours and hours. And it was like I felt afterwards, I felt like I was running a marathon, right? And then they make you leave the room and sit down outside while they deliberate and think, okay, do we think she's really ready to have that title of being a doctor, okay? So I remember being outside that room, being so nervous, so scared, but then they called me back in. And I remember my advisor, he just stuck his hand out and he said, "Congratulations, Dr. Mosqueda, you passed." I thought, oh, it was the best thing ever. And then I thought, this is it. I'm a doctor and I'm gonna go be able to make my mark in the world, right? So then I started applying to a bunch of different jobs. And then lo and behold, I found this position at CSUMB. And I found out that they were starting this great new agriculture program right where I grew up. And I remember thinking when I applied, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this, but I'm still going to apply just in case, right? So then I applied and I interviewed and they offered me the position. So now I am the assistant professor of crop management at California State University, Monterey Bay. And I am one of the professors that's actually heading up the program, along with a bunch of other really, really great agricultural scientists. So when it comes to my research program, so professors, we teach, right? We teach, but we also have what we call research programs. So like how I was saying, when I was in graduate school, I was doing a bunch of research with these graduate students, right? So now I get to be the professor and I get to have the students who get to work with me in my research projects. So the different research that I do in my lab is I look at different crop as well as different weed management practices when it comes to vegetable production as well as berry production. And a big part of my research program is focusing on evaluating different automated as well as different autonomous implements for use in our cropping systems. And so I also focus on integrated pest management practices, right? Using multiple management practices together that are typically much more effective than if we were just to use one single management practice alone. And then I also like to focus on what I call proactive weed management, right? Opposed to something that's reactive, right? So I want to do something that's going to be beneficial in the long term instead of doing something that is just a quick solution that's not very long term, okay? So this is just one project that I have going on right now. So I'm actually currently evaluating different intelligent implements for removing weeds in lettuce systems. So typically weeds have been removed in lettuce fields by hand, as you can see on the picture on the left-hand side. So once again, as I stated earlier, there's actually a really severe labor shortage that is still going on within the Western United States. So it's been really difficult for growers to get enough people to come in and do this really essential management practice. So then a few years ago, people started to develop these implements that not replace, but kind of supplement and help the crew members to weed less and spend less time out in the lettuce fields. So the implement that you see on the right is actually from a French company. This is Now Dino Robot. That's what it's called. And basically you just have to GPS mark the corners of the field. And then with that, the implement can actually enter a bed of lettuce like you see here, go through it and remove the weeds that are surrounding the lettuce plant. So this is another one of the implements that I've evaluated. So there are multiple of these companies, right? So this is a FarmWise implement. So this company is from San Francisco, California, okay? So with that, there's not just one implement. There are many different implements that are being developed when it comes to automated and mechanization of different processes within the agriculture industry, okay? So I have the really neat and honestly fun job of seeing, well, how well do they work and are they really beneficial for our growers, okay? So you can see this implement did a pretty good job, right? So a lot of the weeds there, you can see I'm gonna start moving them around, have actually been uprooted. But it's not perfect. You can see there that some of them were actually left behind. So that's what I do in my research study. I see how many weeds were there before and how many weeds are there after the implement goes through. So I have quite a few students working with me on these different research projects. So the student that you see here on the left-hand side, her name is Julissa Hernandez. So she's actually helping me with the study, trying to control weeds in organic blueberries that are grown in the Watsonville area. And then this student over here, her name is Mayra Cuevas Cardenas. She was the one that was helping me with the automated weeder study that you saw earlier. And I also have one more student, Jesus, oh gosh, Jesus, I'm blanking on his last name, but he has a really neat project too. And he's looking at how different crop rotations impact pest pressure. So I'm doing a bunch of different research projects, and it's really neat that I'm giving these students the opportunity to also be exposed to agricultural research like I was when I was an undergraduate. So with that, I wanted to give all of you just a quick introduction to our new Agricultural Plant and Soil Sciences program at CSUMB. So this is a program that's if you complete, you can get a bachelor's degree from CSUMB, and it's open to transfer students, and it's also open to students who are interested in starting right after high school at the freshman level too. So when it comes to this specific program, we really built it. It was really built to emphasize hands-on learning, not only in the classroom, but in lab settings too. So the great majority of our classes do have some sort of lab component. We also emphasize transfer student success. So as it was pointed out earlier, we're developing different 2+2 programs with community colleges such as Cabrillo, so that way students can do 2 years at a community college and then 2 years at CSUMB. And then after those combined 4 years, they have a bachelor's degree. And then they can go enter the agriculture industry if they choose to. So this program is also special because of the fact that we're really emphasizing on the crops as well as the management practices of those crops grown within the Salinas Valley as well as Pajaro Valley. And we're really emphasizing internship as well as research, and then eventually job placement for our students. So why would you choose CSUMB? There's a bunch of different great universities. Well, I'm here to tell you that CSUMB is also, it's a really, really great university that you should definitely keep in mind when applying to schools if you're at that point. And just a few of the things that make this such a great university is that we're really small compared to a bunch of other universities. So therefore, a lot of our classes are small. All of my classes that I teach this year have less than 30 students, which is not a lot, right? So therefore, there's a lot of that student faculty interaction. I know most of my students by their first name, and students really, really, react positively to that, and they really like that. Throughout the curriculum, and it's not just when you're taking the agriculture courses, it's when you're taking your GE courses as well. We really do emphasize hands-on learning as well as community-wide change. So one thing that really separates CSUMB apart is that we have our students take service learning courses. So this is when you can actually go out to the community, get credit for a class, and then create change by helping out whatever entity in the community that you want to help out. And then on top of that, we have other resources such as campus housing, advising, a bunch of tutoring services, clubs, and as well as student fraternities and sororities if you're interested in that. But then the big question is why agriculture at CSUMB? There are quite a few other universities that have agricultural programs, but the special thing about CSUMB is where we are located, right? We're right in the center, right in the heart of two really, really important valleys when it comes to crop production in California and really in the United States. We're in the heart of probably the most fertile region in the world. And the fact that we have such innovative and progressive growers makes us world renowned when it comes to agriculture production. So because of that, we're really taking advantage of what the area has to offer. And we're making sure that with all the classes that you're gonna take in this program, they're gonna expose you to a variety of different things. So that way you're ready for a variety of different fields within the agriculture industry. So because of our close proximity to the Salinas Valley as well as Pajaro Valley, right, we have really great connections with local agriculture industry to set you up for future employment. Another big thing that we're actually doing is for all of our upper level courses. So if you're a community college student, you're a Cabrillo student, and then you want to transfer over to CSUMB, we're actually having all of our upper level courses within the same 3 days. And the reason why we're doing that is because we're finding a great majority of our students in the program right now, they work. So if they're able to come to school for 3 days, right, they have those extra 2 days so that way they can go ahead and keep on working for full week days instead of just coming to class for here for a few hours each day throughout the week. So that's something that we're going to do throughout the curriculum for our agriculture program at CSUMB. And as I was stating, this program, it really does prepare you for a variety of different fields. And with that, we're really preparing students for more of those applied, hands-on careers, and that you can be the farm manager or the pest control advisor or the certified crop advisor, the agronomist, and so on and so on. So there are a variety of different great fields that this program will prepare you for your future. And finally, I just wanted to end on, as Anne was stating earlier, we're actually right now working with Cabrillo to develop our 2+2 pathway program, okay? So again, this is a program where you can go ahead and complete 2 years at Cabrillo, and then you transfer over to CSUMB in the fall, and then you complete 2 years here at CSUMB, and then you'll get a bachelor's degree after those accumulated 4 years, okay? So again, that our pathway is going to start in the fall. So